Um, first up, Dilip, congrats on being Digital Person of the Year.
Thank you.
And I would believe that this is not the first award. I mean, how many awards do you really have?
That's one. So I spoke to Bipin outside, and I said, your IPO is done. IPO is very successful. So you're in a very happy mood, actually.
I'm going to get into the topic today, which is about future-proofing digital payment security. But before that, I want to know a little bit about. We want to know a little bit about you, and especially one thing, which is that you're the person who has brought digital payments to scale in India more than anyone else in this country, with the success that we have seen at UPI and, of course, many other initiatives, touching what, 15 billion a month?
Yeah, close to 17 now.
Close to 17 billion a month. So the first trick question for you is, how many digital payments do you do every day?
Oh yeah, I think, and me doing the digital payments is a lot of test for the BMAP back for the team. But yeah, I think today and the way digital payments are being adopted, again thanks to the efforts of RBI and the government, I think it is becoming a muscle memory now. While all of us are looking at digital payments as a great enabler, the efficiency, the experience, and the time saver contribution back to the variety of government initiatives, the RBI's initiative. But I think it is becoming a muscle memory for every Indian. We see healthy 450 million users are using it, and we see a daily active at about 200 million. So I think we are at the, I can say that we are at the cusp of revolution now, right? Because from here, the network effects gets added on into the system, and now I think we need a huge support from the RBI government and also the ecosystem, that how do we get another 200, 300 million people onboarded back to this? So I think the digital payments is life now. I don't think we are going back to cash, and of course, a lot of efforts have to be done, as the topic says, that the securing this infra would need a lot of efforts back from the ecosystem.
So, I mean, we need to celebrate the success that NPCI and you in particular have spearheaded. And you've talked about this in it several times. But one thing I am very personally curious to know is that, having run a startup also now for 15 years, is that what has gone behind this success? Because that's not been often talked about. And with you leading this revolution, how have you managed to get here? I mean, whatever you can talk about, and that is where I would say this audience is very curious to know, because many of them are either started a company or building something, scaling, growth, solving problems. And so reaching this incredible milestone, what are some of the key things that have gone into it?
Bipin, it's a great question. I've spoken in bits and pieces about this. I think if we look at where India is from a fintech digital payment perspective, and I see that, and we have been a beneficiary. All of us have been beneficiary. We have been working so closely with you as well. We have been beneficiary of this jam trinity, right? The whole Prime Minister's vision of this jam trinity has been, today the digital payments exist because the jam, right? The jam kind of changed the game for us coined by Prime Minister in 2014, and 2-3 years it took to get to that level after the lot of effort from the banking system to get the Aadhaar seeded, the Jan Dhan accounts opening, and variety of things. I think the base infra layer was ready. And I think proudly, all of us, like banks, NPCI, the fintech ecosystem, can say that now I believe that the UPI has become the infrastructure layer, right? And which is what is being leveraged by all the players, whether the fintechs are in payments or fintechs are in financial services or fintechs that are the startups that are not really in fintech or the financial services in that sense. I think UPI has become that, the base layer which all of us are leveraging. And I think journey to become an infra layer has been very fascinating last 8 years or almost 8 years now, and of course 2 years before that. So I think we are almost at a 10 years of UPI now from a conceptualization and the overall implementation. And I think the three factors have been really important to look at why we could deal with this. One is the absolute clear support of RBI and government, and the support has not reduced by a bit. In fact, that support of why we should do more, why we should innovate more, because the UPI from its base today can grow 10x. We are at the stage now that we must see a 10x growth. I don't know whether it's a 10 years, 15 years, but 10x growth is possible. And I think for a country like us, 100 billion, 150 billion a month is not an impossible task at all, right? Because I was just talking to sometimes the senior government officials, and they said that we are already working on how every Indian will get a smartphone, right? So in the next 3 to 5 years' time. So I think the reality of 100 to 150 billion looks achievable now from the base where we are. And I think the government and RBI support on innovation-led policy has been truly spectacular, and they are convinced that we should look at a 10x growth. The second is the diverse ecosystem. I think we really underestimate this part, right? I think the ecosystem diversity has been a crucial factor of growth of UPI. The new players came in, like you were there, PhonePe, GPay, Paytm. Variety of players actually jumped into this whole UPI bandwagon along with NPCI and the banks, because typically NPCI being called as a bankers club, right? And still some people call, but now nobody believes it because the ecosystem has been set up like that. And this ecosystem put in a lot of efforts, whether it's NPCI, banks, and the fintechs, really put up a solid show, I can say, that together working while there are conflicting views, competing views, how do we move forward along with NPCI, I think has been a second. And the third, sorry, I'm taking a little bit longer time on this to answer back, but last but not the least is I believe the platform evolution is a key parameter why we are able to successful. I think this what's next has been running in everybody's mind. Is the really kick and the thrill why UPI is where what we talk about.
So exactly, I mean, very well said, and leading up to my exact next question, which is that in terms of scalability, in terms of solving what has not been solved yet, and in terms of growth, there are a lot of people here who might believe or who might think that digital payments is done in India. It's already achieved such success.
We have just started.
Absolutely. So what are some of the opportunities that you may want to talk about from an NPCI point of view, where you would want budding entrepreneurs, people who want to build and utilize this great framework and foundation that has been laid, which will take India and UPI, NPCI ecosystem to the next 5 to 10 years?
Great question. And let me just answer it like a challenge. And actually, that's an opportunity for the fintechs sitting here. The first one I see that, I think with the approval of RBI, we have launched this UPI circle, which is the delegate payments. So I think now the question is, how do we get more merchants and more customers on the fray? And of course, a lot of investments will be required from the banks and fintechs, because that's a little bit more vulnerable section what we want to bring in, both in terms of tech and both in terms of the safety and security. So I think what we have done is not going to be useful, right? In that sense. So for example, if you want to get in another 200, 300 million people who has the smartphone, who has the data connection, who has the bank account, but they are not yet ready on UPI. So I think the delegate payments, right, which is what you can use to give them a small ticket comfort, kind of an entry strategy to the digital ecosystem, in my assessment, is a great strategy. I think there are some of the startups like yourself or you guys work on a PPI in a big way. But I was just thinking that combination of a wallet and a combination of a delegate payments can be a really great strategy to expand the market, especially if you look at the house helps or your the kids, for example, can be a great strategy to, and we have fixed a limit about 10,000 rupees a month or something like that. So I think that becomes a very a risk-free, at the same time very empowering mechanism to bring in the large section which is still outside UPI or the digital payments. The second opportunity which I see is all about the voice, right? I think this conversational payments, the payments in Indian language, can actually play a really an infrastructural role, right? While AI being used for variety of things, and we believe that the future belongs to AI. I think this voice-based conversational payments can be a great opportunity where the fintechs and startup can use AI and make payments very personal to the large scale population. And while yes, of course, Indians have shown a great kind of adaptability to the app ecosystem, right? But I think the voice is going to be the important channel. Yes, we don't believe it right now. We don't. I fully get that the believability that the voice can take over of majority of commerce. There has been some examples like Alexa and those kind of things, but I think that the moment it comes back embedded back inside your app, right? I think it can gain that traction, and it can further improve the user experience, at least for the small ticket payments, in my assessment. The third aspect which we keep debating back at NPCI is the IoT. The IoT will grow in the future, but that is a little bit more long term, because we are still waiting for the affordable IoT, affordable replacement of the smartphone, affordable, simpler consumer experience on many of the IoTs, what we see, whether it's a car or the household appliances. But I think these are the big areas where, in my assessment, expansion will happen, and it's fairly high tech in that sense, in all three, to create to ensure that how do we expand the market.
Thanks, Dilip. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, which does get reported in the media also, and which might deter the confidence or trust of people in digital payments, is about security. And frauds or hacking of phones or all this will never be zero. But do you think that is one of the main reasons why still people prefer cash? Or is that, and if there is enough being done about it, and if you see enough homegrown effort, Indian effort, especially, I know there was a sandbox at the RBI level where there were some efforts which were being made around that. But still, this problem or this challenge will become larger and larger. So what is your view on how it can be tackled, and what can people build to tackle it?
So there are two ways I would like to answer. Again, this keeps, what keeps us awake in the night is this question, and I'm sure the regulator and the government also has been thinking about it a lot and trying to action and improve the market. Let me first answer the cyber part of it, right? I think a lot of work has been done, even from the RBI standpoint. There is a dedicated seaside department which kind of monitors, assists back to the ecosystem. Then there is the government has created two entities. One is separate institutions. One is the NCII PC. which is National Critical Infrastructure Management Company, and the second is the CERTIN, which is the kind of department. I think both are aligned back to the MeitY in some way. But with the C side, with the NCI, PC, and with the CERTIN, we have kind of moved a lot on the cyber, the data security standards, the practices, at least for the critical infrastructures, and I'm sure you also go through a lot of mandates back from their side, but I think these are required. The investments in terms of skills, the investment in terms of tools, and investment in terms of process is mandatory. And if any of the player, whatever small or large part he's playing back in the ecosystem, technically he can bring the large risk back to the ecosystem, and the chain is as secure as the weakest link of that. And technically, with the support of these three, NCI, PC, RBI, CSIT, and the CERTIN, there has been a security standard which has been laid out, and these standards will get stricter and stricter. So I think the one learning for the ecosystem is, if you are not ready to invest right from the top, from the boards, at the board level, the payment system or a digital business is not the business which you should get in. I think that's very clear. The standards and securities which are required to maintain the trust of the common citizen, and it is mandatory. So I think that's one very clear direction from the government and RBI to the NPCI and to the ecosystem which is run by variety of platforms in NPCI. The second issue in this, so again, if the cyber security is not, just to sum up, if cyber security is not running up as a top of the mind issue for the CEO or the board, I think that company is in the wrong direction in my assessment. The second point which you asked is I think the frauds what we see back in the ecosystem, and these frauds predominantly come up because of and I could look at, I think we have categorized it in two major areas. One is the greed, and second is the fear. There, one is, I would like to explain is, most all the payment system with the two-factor mandate authentication by RBI, I think 99.9% payments are now push-based payments, right? Which means that consumer is using a two-factor authentication to make the payment, right? So there is no technical fraud. Even the numbers, while it looked very large, when you look at the international benchmark, the fraud, which is 2 basis point or 3 basis point, which is about 1/10 in India. So I think if you look at the UPI numbers, which whatever has been reported to NPCI, RBI, is about 0.1 basis point. But again, because the numbers are so large, they look large. But predominantly, if we have to categorize, that these are not because of the technical fault or any other issue, but due to the fear and greed. Now, there also variety of efforts we have done. In fact, NPCI board allowed us to spend about 150 crore. We came with a recent campaign as Main Moorkh Nahi Hu with the actor Pankaj Tripathi, and it is gaining momentum. So I think the awareness and the reaching out to the common man will only improve these things, and government also has been, in fact, Honorable FM had taken this, the law and enforcement, can it be a fairly stricter law and enforcement with the Home Ministry also. So Home Ministry has set up I4C. Lot of efforts has been done, but lot more has to be done. I think, and there are 3 layers which we can look at, as ecosystem standpoint. So one is the education awareness. I think every player must invest. RBI invest in RBI Kehta Hai, NPCI invest in Main Moorkh Nahi Hu, UPI Chalega. And variety of initiative. I think the ecosystem also must come up, and I would strongly recommend if there is a strong example like Amphi, where mutual fund, and it has kind of helped to create a trust in the ecosystem. If PCI, IMEI can run a digital campaign, right, to create that safety and security awareness back to the ecosystem, that digital is safe, provided you don't fall prey to any of such greed or fear situation. The second layer, which I look at it, is a AI ML or a technology layer. You know, NPCI has built up a lot of models to kind of decline transactions, real-time basis, and the ecosystem has the intelligence in terms of looking at the account vintage, you know, the spending patterns, and you know how the money is moved back from the accounts. So I think the ecosystem also must use the AI ML and the technology in a big way to kind of reduce the at least reduce the impact, if not completely eliminate. And the third, last but not the least, is work with the government to get the really hard law enforcement back in the country, so that the fraudster is not got away without any repercussions of getting involved in these kind of activities. So I think, sorry, I took a little bit longer time, but I think it's a very important issue all of us are thinking, and again, top of the mind of RBI and the government. But I think ecosystem also has to do a lot of work to get to a comfortable situation in this.
Great, detailed answer on security and frauds. And I'm sure, Dilip, a lot of people here would be excited to think about what the opportunities are there to build new. You talked about AI, ML, you talked about security. There may be, will there be opportunities for startups in this space? And what can they do?
No, 100%. I think there are two areas which I see very clear advantage to the startups. May not be fintech related, but more on a deep tech side. So one is building up the security tools and processes. Predominantly, I see that there are many Indian companies now are building up security tools, information security tools, privacy related tools, and variety of things which are being set up. Also the deep tech part of it, you know, building models, right, which can be used, whether it's on a cloud-based or on-prem, depending upon the banks or the fintech's security policies. But I think the quality of data and quality of models is a huge opportunity to generate an intelligence. And I think the AI-backed fintech, AI-first fintechs, AI-first startups, it's a huge opportunity for them too, because if you generate, you know, if the India as a fintech ecosystem doing about 50-60 billion APIs on a daily basis, I think you can just imagine that how much intelligence it has and what is the juice which we can take out from that.
Thanks, Dilip. So a lot of people think, when they think of NPCI and think of Dilip Asbe, you know, they call you the UPI man. And of course, you know, that's pretty rightful. But NPCI is much more than that, right? I mean, it's not just UPI. I mean, what I heard recently is that RuPay has become very, very big. And it's now, is it one of the biggest or going to be the biggest card network in the country?
Still long time to go to become a, but I think the growth has been good. I think you know, we have been working with fintech, large lenders on to promote RuPay credit cards. As of now, we are about somewhere 16-17% of the value spent on credit in the country, and we are hoping that, you know, at least you know, we do, you know, at least we become the equal partner, which is in next couple of years' time. And thankfully, it is seeing a great momentum in terms of whether it's a brand RuPay. We are trying to we partner with IPL and variety of areas to ensure that the RuPay image, RuPay brand is known to everybody in the country. Finally, it's a domestic. It's one of the largest domestic card network with international acceptance. The second part is, you know, creating a lot of value add for the ecosystem, the differentiation back to the ecosystem, such as you can scan a mandate and give a recurring payment instruction back to on your credit card. You can scan the QR code and give the EMI on buy the electronics, buy whatever you want. So I think variety of differentiation projects are in progress along with the leading banks, and I think the ecosystem and NPCI is working very, very closely. You know, I just wish that your words come true, that to become number one, and I think RuPay deserves to be number one in my assessment.
Absolutely. Now let's switch gears and, you know, talk a little bit about business. And, fintechs have built businesses in many different spaces, digital payments, other aspects of digital finance, including lending and investments, insurance, etc. But more specifically in payments, what do you think the path looks like when it comes to building sustainable businesses? Because in India, we do have a lot of growth still to go, a lot of expansion still to go. But are there still question marks around the unit economics, around how to make money? And these are tricky questions, given the scale and adoption, in particular of UPI, but not just UPI, but other digital payment modes. And so there is this constant, I would say, dialogue and negotiation between whether digital payments should be free, whether someone should pay for it, who should pay for it, and whether if someone pays for it, then will the adoption go down and it will impact the growth of the ecosystem, like you said, from 15 billion to 100 billion. I will not go into anything specific, but more at a high level. What are your thoughts on this?
See, basically, being part of NPCI, we are fully aligned to the government and RBI's vision on growing up this market to 10x. However, I fully agree with you that I think any business must be commercially viable to the ecosystem. Of course, I don't think that it may not mean that it's a mass scale business. While it has to be looked at as a economies of scale business and not the really high profitability business in that sense. So the players who are at scale would be able to monetize it over the long period. Second is, it has to be also looked at as an infrastructure business. So I think I understand the problem what you guys would face with the private equities and the fundraising issues because of this zero MDR, especially on UPI. But again, it's an infrastructure like a model. Today, when you look at the infrastructure projects, they give the returns back 7 years, 10 years down the line. And I think the payments business must be looked at by the investors like that, because the payments business itself will become viable for sure. For sure, it will become viable. I cannot answer whether it will become this year or the next year. But of course, I think the whole system is working towards that. There is a sustainable business model back to the ecosystem. The second part on that is, it also generates a lot of opportunities, right? Today, if you look at the credit penetration, the investment penetration, and the insurance penetration is fairly low in the country. So I think the way if the payments become an infra layer, that becomes an opportunity for all the fintechs like yours to kind of leverage the payments to kind of offer, because now if the collections becomes near zero, right? With the program, it adds programmability such as autopay and those. We do about 40 million autopay mandates now on a monthly basis, which is a great number in my assessment to demonstrate that the collections is becoming near zero in that sense for whatever services you want to offer. The other part I would like to explain is, I think from an ecosystem standpoint, I think charging to consumer should be absolutely non-starter, and we are fully aligned with the government and RBI on this aspect, that the digital payments should never be charged back to the consumer. Of course, on the large merchants, the small merchants, again, they have been recent, because the government policy, at least they could participate in the ecosystem. Today, if you look at it, today you had a credit card, you could only pay back to the large merchant, and small merchant never got the opportunity to even participate in that credit money which consumer was leveraging. And today with UPI, CC, with even you can buy a use the credit card to pay back to the coconut vendor on the street. So I think that's where the value is coming back to the overall ecosystem, and we have been continuing our dialogue with the government to kind of, whether it's the right time or not, I cannot answer that, because that's finally the policy makers will have to make a decision on that. But I think that we are very close now. I can only say that we to making a small frictional small pie as a MDR from the large merchant, which will hopefully make it sustainable, and also the ecosystem playing large role on credit and those kind of instruments is already making that as a good revenue model back to the ecosystem.
Well said. Not many people realize that, a lot of the financial products which are being sold digitally today actually are riding on the back of adoption of digital payments, especially UPI. So much retail oversubscription that you see on IPOs, for example.
UPI I think the digital payments has become the infra layer in my assessment, and I think it will create a and it's so efficient layer. I think being an infra layer is not very difficult, but I think be very efficient infra layer. I think that is a great value back to the country and its citizens in my assessment.
So our times is up. One final question, Dilip. How long will you continue working 90 hours a week?
I think this is very controversial question, and I think there is I see a lot of memes. So I hope you don't want the memes on me to be circulated. But I think
I'm talking about yourself,
yeah,
because you're the most super energetic person every time I meet you.
I think there is no measure. I think when you love your work, when there is knowing that you have got the opportunity, which there would have been many better people around you to get that opportunity. I think working hard is a choice. I can say that, and it kind of that gives back the energy, actually, if I look at it that way. If you like your work, I think time is not something which you measure or you monitor in that sense. So that I leave it at that level.
No, I mean, you are so inspiring, Dilip. I mean, every time I meet you, I feel inspired by your energy, by your enthusiasm, by your curiosity, and by your vision of the future, which is actually, even running a startup, I feel that so inspiring. So I hope, all of you also get inspired by this success that Dilip has achieved, and NPCI and our own digital payment ecosystem has achieved. And with that, I want to say thanks to Dilip for taking his time, precious time, to come here and share his journey with us.